Not a line from a movie, not a planned goodbye, not a clever PR line to make people feel sorry for them. The words were whispered by a member of the Fantastic Four cast as they got up and left the bargaining room. They were quiet, sharp, and final. Disney didn't think it would happen. It was clear what it meant, though. They weren't coming back. There were no cheers in the office that day, not any cams. There was only the faint sound of pens scratching paper, contracts shuffling, and execs pretending to smile because they thought they were still in charge. This was Marvel's next big thing, the reboot that was meant to change the future of the series. Still, it all fell apart over some numbers on a page. Disney thought it could count on the formula for a long time. Don't give as much as you expect, but do keep the machine running. But this time, the stars that were supposed to lead Marvel into the next era finally gave up this time. But this time, the stars meant to lead Marvel's next era, Pedro, Vanessa, Joseph, and Eben, finally said enough. Because this isn't just about one movie, it isn't just about one cast. It's about the quiet rebellion that's been building for years, and the moment it all came to a head. Let's find out why. It was Marvel's next crown jewel, the movie that would take the series into the future and fix what the multiverse had quietly broken. The Fantastic Four wasn't just another reboot. It was meant to be the start of the next era in the MCU. Disney saw it as the fresh start it needed after years of uneven stages and falling fan trust. It was a planned move for Disney. Let the old Avengers go one by one, and then bring in a new group that could fill stadiums, theaters, and Disney Plus with endless spin-offs. Everything looked great on paper. It looked like the casting was a stroke of genius. This is the kind of group that sells itself without a trailer. Pedro Pascal plays Reed Richards, who is charming, easy to get along with, and already well-liked from The Mandalorian and The Last of Us. He gives the smartest man living weight. Vanessa Kirby was great as Sue Storm. She was calm and smart, just the way the Invisible Woman wanted her to be. Many people loved Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm from Stranger Things. He brought heat, charm, and chaos to the role. And Eben Moss-Bachrach as Ben Grimm, who is fresh off of The Bear and has a lot of heart and soul hidden beneath the Thing's rough appearance. It looked like Marvel had finally figured it out from the outside. This was supposed to be the redemption story after 2 failed Fantastic Four movies and years of bad casting and dull scripts. Fans shared fan art, reaction videos, and rumors on social media about how the MCU would finally honor one of its most famous teams. But cracks were already appearing behind the noise. Disney's accountants were quietly sharpening their pencils while the deals were being made and the news releases were being sent out. Before the stories were even finished, the budgets were cut. The studio's rules got stricter before the plots were even planned. Slowly, the same attitude of cutting corners and not seeing the big picture that had destroyed the X-Men, turned off the Avengers, and drained the magic from Marvel began to seep in here as well. Behind the scenes, what looked like a great plan on paper was already falling apart. That unraveling wasn't just a mistake, as we'll see, it was a trend. The Fantastic Four were not the first ones. In all honesty, this has been needed for a long time. What took place in that boardroom, the silent protest, the walkout, and the line in the sand, was just the most recent part of a pattern that has been growing for years. Over time, Disney's corporate culture has been destroying its creative spirit one mistake at a time, replacing ideas with charts and relationships with contracts. Joshua Renner was the first person to say it out loud. He almost died in a snowplow accident and broke 38 bones. It took months of painful recovery. Then Disney made him a new deal for Hawkeye Season 2. Half the pay, twice the work. It was a quiet answer, but it hit hard. What made you think I'm only half Jeremy? Another example is Scarlett Johansson, who played Black Widow in Disney's streaming service Black Widow without following the terms of her contract. She had to sue the company that she had helped grow into a global empire. They didn't try to fix it. Instead, they called her greedy while there was a plague going on. Even though the smear effort didn't work, it did hurt someone. Chris Hemsworth, who used to be the MCU's star, said in public that Love and Thunder had made Thor such a living joke that even his kids didn't want to watch it. Also, Patrick Stewart quit after Logan, saying only, "His story was told. as if he knew there was nothing left to fight for. His Professor X had been the emotional center of many Marvel stories. However, that's because it wasn't just bad management. Now, players were seen as useless parts in a business machine that could be switched out and not given enough value. There was no way to avoid seeing the cracks during the X-Men press tour. Former franchise star James McAvoy wouldn't even talk about coming back, telling reporters he wasn't interested in talking to them. Michael Fassbender stopped acting. He looked tired in everything he did. Sophie Turner, who had once become Jean Grey, turned down every role, not even an appearance. Jennifer Lawrence, who was written off early, spoke to the press with awkward, mean comedy. Disney thought that these performers could be made to fit again by giving them less money and a smile. After Fantastic Four, though, it was clear that this was going to happen again, and no one was ready to play along. The breaking point happened slowly, but it had to. Disney finally brought the stars of Fantastic Four back to the table after months of waiting, but no one was ready for the contracts that were waiting for them. The new offers were a small part of the ones that were made before. These were not the kinds of MCU deals that made actors like Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., and Scarlett Johansson stars and defined their careers. People who were close to the talks didn't hold back. The deals were called insulting by them. Inside Disney, the company's explanations for the lowball contracts showed how far the studio had fallen from its former glory. Agents say executives told them, "It's a multiverse." The actors were no longer needed because anyone can play these roles. Someone else would have agreed to the deal if they hadn't. It wasn't just artistic arrogance, it was the way things were done at work. Disney had promised to cut costs by more than $7 billion across the whole company. This was felt most strongly in the room where the Fantastic Four's future was being chosen. Everyone in the group responded right away. It was said that Pedro Pascal was shocked. He had already been in 2 huge series, The Mandalorian and The Last of Us. He told someone close to him, "That's not what I signed up for," behind closed doors. Vanessa Kirby didn't even argue. She is known for being very dedicated to every part she plays and for carefully planning her lines. She didn't even bother to look at the numbers on the page. She just left. Eben Moss-Bachrach and Joseph Quinn also didn't make a fuss. Both quietly dropped out of the talks, which left Disney scrambling as news of the departure spread through the media. It was meant to be Marvel's next big team-up and the crown jewel of Phase 6, but it was falling apart before the cameras even started rolling. It wasn't loud, but the revolt didn't need to be. Each star got up and pushed their chair back, leaving Disney alone, shocked, and out in the open at the table. Then there were the leaks, which made Disney realize something it couldn't avoid any longer. The quiet rebellion had just become public. There was more quiet than a red carpet could say. In contrast to Marvel's usual well-planned releases, there was no happy cast huddling together for a family picture this time. There were no practiced lines about how excited they were to join the MCU. No glossy magazine pictures with people wearing the same clothes and admiring each other. As soon as the talks broke down, there was no organized PR effort to save the story. The players wouldn't go along with Disney's plans, even though they leaked stories to the press and made press kits that were never used. It wasn't like they showed up for fake picture ops. They didn't do interviews together. There was no attempt to be united. They were brushed off by the press that did catch them, like McAvoy. When asked about the movie at a different event, a cast member is said to have said, "They can promote their own movie." That one line perfectly summed up the mood. The days of smiling through corporate chaos were over. Fans who were paying attention could not help but hear the echoes of what happened in X-Men: Dark Phoenix. Back then, the cast had to fake excitement for a movie they knew was badly made while being shown off on talk shows and press junkets. It's been years, but Michael Fassbender's quiet jab still sticks with me. I just don't have the energy for the "we send each other." Jennifer Lawrence made a joke on Jimmy Kimmel about Raven's death like it was nothing, making what should have been a turning point into an awkward punchline. The cast of Fantastic Four saw everything and learned from it. This time, they didn't wait for the cameras to catch how angry they were. They made sure Disney couldn't even make it a show. They didn't want their anger to be turned into glossy news clips, so they walked away first. When they left the studio, the chairs were empty, and the contracts were not met. For the first time in Marvel's carefully planned past, the start of a new era wasn't just thrown off track, it was already dead when it got there. It wasn't just the money that made them decide to leave, it's never really is. For the cast of Fantastic Four, it was about getting respect, which Disney no longer seemed to be able to give. For years, Marvel stars carried the studio's biggest stories and spent their best years making a cultural phenomenon. Then, Disney turned them into interchangeable parts of a huge IP machine. What that machine made might still be made, but the magic was gone for the people who made it special. Because Netflix and Warner Brothers across town have something that Disney doesn't anymore. Freedom of thought. Projects that put artists first. Story and character come before theatrics and cameos in the scripts. Do not use IP shackles, no long-term franchise responsibilities. It's not an accident that Robert Downey Jr., who built the MCU piece by piece, quit Disney without saying goodbye and gave his best performance yet in Oppenheimer for Warner. Bros Chris Evans, who used to be Captain America and was Marvel's moral center, has quietly turned his attention to projects backed by Apple and Warner Brothers. He wants to play important, difficult parts instead of the same tired shield. In the past, Scarlett Johansson was the face of female strength in superhero movies. But now she has turned her back on empowering spin-offs and looked for stories that are more realistic and complex. People don't see Hugh Jackman's much-anticipated return as a homecoming in Deadpool and Wolverine. Instead, they see it as a farewell, one last bow before he hangs up the outfit for good. Now, the same door is opening for the Star Wars group. Sources close to the stars say that Netflix and Warner have already quietly approached them with projects that not only pay more, but also value what they bring to the table. Scripts that go deep, leaders with a goal, the kind of respect that Disney forgot how to give. Disney should be careful with this case. Since the stars are now walking right into the arms of the competition, they are no longer just walking away. And it's clear what the question is. If Marvel's once proud heroes now see Warner and Netflix as safe places to go instead of home, how does the house that the heroes built stay when they're not around? Bob Iger's much-talked-about return to Disney was meant to fix everything and bring back the studio's shine after years of chaos, but he couldn't stop the damage. Too many things went wrong. After being worn out by impossible deadlines and last-minute changes, VFX artists finally got together and formed a union to protest the unfair working conditions that had become the norm. There was a strike by writers. Then the players showed up, which put production on hold, while Disney quietly fired thousands of workers, raised park prices again, and saw subscriptions to Disney Plus stay the same. Nowhere was the fall more clear than in the MCU. Marvel seemed to have lost all direction after Endgame. Eternals were beautiful to look at, but they felt empty, like a pretty shell without a heart. She-Hulk broke the fourth wall to make fun of the people who built the brand, which became a joke. It was called a dark and suspenseful movie, but Secret Invasion couldn't even keep people's attention long enough to finish. Then there was Thor, Love and Thunder, which made one of Marvel's most beloved heroes look like a living joke. Chris Hemsworth even said that his own kids were embarrassed to watch it. Disney didn't learn, so they did it again. For one more time, they held on tighter to memories and hoped that the same old tricks would help them. Multiverse tricks took the place of new ideas. Characters were replaced by cameos. They thought that people wouldn't notice if they replaced famous players with cheaper, less experienced ones. However, lightning has not struck twice. Not now. Because remembrance isn't the same as vision, and fans can't live off old memories alone. The cast of Fantastic Four didn't quit because of a bad deal. Because they could see what Marvel had turned into, they walked. They saw a machine without a soul that was hoping to coast past greatness. They may have also known something that Disney still won't say. Fans can now see right through Disney's facade, and the company can't hide behind the logo any longer. A casting call used to be enough to make social media ablaze with gossip and excitement. Now, things are different now. Not sure, snarky, laughing at you. Every time a Fantastic Four casting leak comes out, Reddit threads get very active. but the mood isn't happy. That's rude. Fans question every move, not because they want to be mean, but because they think something is wrong. The fire that used to drive people to come up with new theories has turned into doubt. Creators on YouTube who used to support Marvel are now publicly critical of its direction. A lot of people watch the video writings called Where Marvel Went Wrong and the Death of the MCU. Streamers break down every move and statement, and what they find is very bad. Even unimportant comments from the crowd tell the story. Most of the comments are posts that call the new Fantastic Four movie a downgrade. People remember how ambitious Marvel used to be and how famous and unique its figures were. As I watch Disney replace those figures with cheaper, safer ones, it doesn't feel like a bold new beginning, but more like a company reset. A brand can only last so long on nostalgia. The fact that Hugh Jackman is back in Deadpool and Wolverine is proof enough. Even though his fans are glad to see him again, it's hard to ignore the message he sends. The Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman, is not the future. He shows how far Disney has fallen and reminds us of how the stories used to feel alive and the stars were irreplaceable. His return shows how creatively bankrupt a company is when it wants to get back to the magic of the old days so badly that it would rather bring back old heroes than start something new. In a statement that has already gone viral, one fan said it so well. "It's not a master plan, it's a salvage operation," is a line that fans use as a quiet, rallying cry. Since everyone can now feel it, it's no longer like the stories are stories. The actors no longer feel like a family, fans no longer feel like they're a part of something special. Disney may still think that people will watch no matter what. The truth is easier though, people have already begun to leave the room. Disney says it will just change the cast and keep going as if nothing happened. To calm investors and put together what's left of the plan, they've already started briefing the deals with words like fresh faces and exciting new talent. The walkout by the Fantastic Four group sends a message that Disney can't ignore. Artists should not be thrown away. People won't stay loyal if you take away their artistic freedom and pay them less. The actors didn't just turn down a bad deal, they turned down the culture that made it possible. Everyone is looking at Bob Iger again now. The man who was brought out of retirement to keep things in order is being looked at again. He may have been able to balance the books by cutting costs too much, but in the process, he killed Marvel's artistic spirit. The question is still being talked about in every boardroom and every fan group. Is it too late now? Because performers can be changed, scenes can be filmed again, scripts can be changed, but it's very hard to rebuild trust after it's been broken. Can Marvel stay in business without the group of Fantastic Four, the stars' respect, and the fans' trust? Netflix and Warner Brothers have already shown they're willing to stand by the artists Disney took for granted. Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Eben Moss-Bachrach have all quit. It's no longer just about dress codes and contracts. It has to do with honor, tradition, and whether or not Marvel can ever find its spark again. Is it still possible to change course, or is it already too loud to ignore the silence of the stars? Should Disney go all out and recast the Fantastic Four, or is it time to say that this story is over? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.